Crap. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian McLogan, and this is week number 87. Let's go ahead and talk about how to take better notes in your math class. And once we're done with that, I will go ahead and take your questions like I do each and every week on Sunday night at 9 p.m. If you're interested in myself answering your questions, then feel free to go ahead and submit your questions using the link inside the chat. It's also in the description. If I'm not able to get your question or you're looking for some more immediate help, then also go ahead and take a look at the Discord community, which is an amazing server that I think just keeps on growing each and every week. And I think it's a great asset that you guys can use throughout the rest of the year. But I see Benson and Josie and Big Savage Boom. What are notes? We'll go ahead and talk about that. Shamia Walker and Simone and Emily and Charles. It is great to have you on there. But yes, no more spam, guys. We have some people that will be happy to moderate, as well as myself, to make sure that you guys are following on there. Do we need to take notes about how to take better notes? That is a great question. You know what? I don't think you do, because this will be obviously up on my channel and you can obviously go ahead and rewatch it. If you are not subscribed to my email list, then you did not get the email, which I actually already wrote out all of these for you. So I'd highly recommend you get on the email list. So therefore you can kind of see what I'm talking about each and every week. And if you do want some kind of written out notes, which I do kind of recommend, then you can definitely get those on the emails as well. All right. But actually I can't take it to go to my teacher doesn't write. Well, yes. Norberto, this is actually a very common question. The reason why I wanted to cover the content that we're talking about is the thing about taking good notes. A lot of everything that, well, not everything, but a couple of the points that I'm going to mention on this live stream is not going to be dependent on who your teacher is. So it's very important that you are taking kind of ownership of the note-taking process, regardless of really who your teacher is going to be. But obviously, you know, it definitely does help to have a teacher that you kind of connect with, that you understand, and that you can follow, compared to, you know, one that you cannot from there. All right. So my weekend was very good, Holden. Thank you very much for on that. I'm still kind of getting used to, it's still kind of weird. I have like different, the comment screen is different as far as what I've been using, because I like to kind of explain this from on there, and sometimes it's kind of a little weird looking at it from this side. And because says, well, you're live, first time watching live. Well, yes, this is actually my 87th week going live. So therefore, if you have questions throughout the year, I am very excited to continue offering my services each and every Sunday night at 9 p.m. So as you have your questions, feel free to go ahead and submit them in the link that is pinned on the comment section. Or also, you can go ahead and take a look at the Discord server and get your questions answered there as well. But a lot of the questions, though, as you guys are submitting them into the chat, please note all the questions that I have aligned for us tonight. These have all been pre-submitted. So I'm going to show you guys these right now. These have all pre-submitted that we're going to go ahead and take a look at. We have some logarithms. I actually have quite a bit of questions. We're actually not as mathy as typically we usually are. So these are all questions that were pre-submitted. So again, typically we'll see how long the stream goes. And then if I have time at the end to answer any questions that are submitted inside the chat, then I will be happy to do that for you guys. All right. From you guys on there. And Charles says 106,000 more subscribers to go. Yes, guys, I'm very, very close to the million mark. Looking forward to getting closer and closer from there. And why was it not showing? There we go. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, Chrissy. That is awesome. Greatly appreciate that. Isn't it normal not to know everything as a tutor at first? Yeah. I mean, like, you guys look at me. I mean, there's so many questions I get submitted, you know, people submit to, and I'm like, I'm not familiar with it. I mean, you think about math, and math is such a broad topic, such a broad, subject, that I'm not going to remember everything. Even stuff that I've taught is very difficult to kind of like remember the right time of like approach or, right teaching method, or even stuff, there's a lot of things I've taught or that, people ask, and I'm like, I haven't gone over that since I was in college or when I was in high school. And some of the things, I might have never actually, learned, even though I have a math degree, might not have actually had to learn that in my school. It might have been different from there. So yeah, I think it's definitely totally normal not to know everything. And that's why I'm very upfront, with a lot of students. I'm like, hey, I'm not the best teacher. I'm not the best explainer. I'm going to do the best I possibly can. And if I don't know something, I don't want to sugarcoat it, for you. I want to make sure either I'm able to get the answer or get an explanation that is going to be sufficient. And if not, I want to refer you to getting that from somebody else. And I think that's kind of important. That's what I love really about the Discord server is there's so many smart people on that Discord server that's, know way more math even than I do and can help you and explain, concepts and working through problems. And, because not everybody knows everything, and you don't want to put people on a pedestal thinking that, oh, you're so smart, or, oh, you've taken all these classes and you can do these things, because while they might be able to do some things, they might not be the best explainer or the best approach, that's going to match with how you understand things. Well, very happy to help you, Shamia. And you guys help a lot. You in college. They know you rock. Well, thank you very much. Very happy to be able to help you out. Thank you. All right. So let's go ahead and get in some notes, because I think one of the things that as you guys are getting into my questions, so many students always are asking me, like, how do I take better notes in class? So that's why that's where I came up with this topic. It was one of those questions that inside of the chat, I got asked over and over and over again. So I wanted to make sure that I could spend some time with you guys covering what exactly we're going to need to know. So I think, yeah, cool. All right. So that is what we're going to cover in this topic. Yeah, no, you're not a bad tutor for that. And Breath, I will be talking about some Algebra 2 concepts a little bit tonight, but not as many. But I definitely have some more videos. I know if you guys have seen my channel, I'm starting to upload them, not as far as inside of the classroom. So it's kind of weird. I know a lot of you guys are going back this week. Some of you have already been back. It's kind of a little weird not being inside the classroom, but yeah, I'm slowly getting used to teaching in front of a camera. I mean, I've been used to teaching in front of a camera, but teaching like fully, like making videos in front of the desktop and camera, it's kind of just been a little different from on there. So is there a link to the Discord? The one in the description is invalid. That's not good. Hold on, let me actually figure that out. I thought I did that. I'm going to have to check that out. Discord. That should be able to work. I'll go ahead and copy and paste it if it's not going there, but it's been the one that's not good if it's been invalid for a long time. Yeah, no, you should be good. I'm not sure if I didn't put in the base. Let me see if that works. There you go. Check it on there. Okay, well, I mean, sorry about that. Michael asked a question. I wanted to confirm, is math regarding finding areas and perimeters and the dimension of pipes per... Yeah, I mean, I'd say like Algebra 1 or Geometry. Or it could even be like a pre-algebra, to be honest with you. I mean, there's so much math that's like not... I don't want you to feel like something has to be restricted to one course or not. It's like the same thing. I mean, there's so many things that I teach in pre-calculus that shows up in calculus, right? Or I teach in Algebra 2 that shows up in calculus. So, a lot of things are reviewed over and over and over again. So I would say anything from pre-algebra to geometry, depending on like where it is within that course, would be acceptable. All right, so let's go ahead and let's talk about the notes, because obviously I know there's many of you that showed up just for the notes section. So I want to make sure I get out to how you can be successful on taking some notes. So you guys ready? Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the first thing, taking notes. And want to make sure I predicate this on this is advice that I'm giving from myself as a student, as well as from what I've seen as a teacher, giving this to my own students. So this is advice that I follow, as well as what has helped me become a better math student. And I think the first thing that I'd recommend doing is having your notes printed out, coming to class with your, the notes or the examples, whatever you're doing, already completed. And the reason why that is important is because that's going to save you time is when you get into class, then you kind of already know the flow of how notes are going to go. You already have written down like the main stuff that you need to have done. And then you can just focus on two different things. One, listening to your instructor. And then two, just writing down like the important points. Like you already have the main concepts down or like written down. So therefore you can just kind of like make sure you're filling in the gaps. And it's very, very important that if you do have like previous notes or somebody else's notes that took the class before, like whatever you can, like have those notes prepared in front of class. And so that's one thing that, I decided as a teacher that that's what I just started doing for my students. I started creating the notes ahead of class. So therefore they could come into class with everything already ready. So therefore when class started, it was, all right, it's game time. Let's learn this stuff. I don't want you to be, because the problem, what happens with a lot of students when they're doing math is I'll be teaching and they're just busy writing down definitions and formulas and all. Like, that's a waste of your time. You should have all of that stuff written down, right? You don't want to be coming into class, writing down stuff that was already available to you ahead of the class, okay? Because you really want to be listening intently and trying to understand what exactly is going on. So if you already have everything written down, then that's going to allow you that time to really focus on what's going on. Now, I do realize that not every teacher, professor, instructor has the notes provided for you already online available to print out, right? Now, that's a little, I think with the development of online schooling and where we're going, like that's becoming a little bit more commonplace than it used to. But still, there's a lot of teachers old school that they still expect you to show up, write down whatever notes that they're doing from the class, which, hey, that's definitely acceptable. I get it. So the step number 2, I think, is going to help you for those of you that are in that camp. And step number 2 is to kind of go through class ahead of time. Like this doesn't need to be let's say you have a 60-minute class. This can just be like 10, 15 minutes of your time, of your day. And what I want you to do is like go through the section, go through the notes, look over what you are covering for that day, right? Or what your teacher said, hey, we're doing 7.2. Okay, cool. I'm going to look at the text. I'm going to look through the definitions. I'm going to look through the examples, and I'm going to try to understand what it is I can by myself. Now, obviously, the reason why a lot of us go to school is because we need that instructor's assistance. We need them to kind of help us connect things, right? But there's a lot we can learn on our own. There's a lot we can understand just by looking at the text. And some people, can actually do very well just learning on their own. But that's not really the point. The point that I'm trying to make is that, even if you struggle with math, as you're looking through those original concepts and you say, hey, I don't understand how the textbook did this, or I don't understand why they're doing this or what things, like write down those questions. And so when you should be going to class, you already have definitions written down. You've already looked at things. You kind of have a general idea of what you're going to be going into class with. And you already have questions that you're like, I don't understand why this happened or what we're trying to achieve with this. Like write down those the stupid questions, because who cares? It's your notes, right? So you can be as stupid as you want to be, but write them down. And then as you're going to class, you're listening intently for, can you answer those questions? And like when you see, oh, here's how that definition connected, or, oh, here's how things are being applied. When you take the time to have already looked at the notes and have already looked at what you are going to be covering in that class period, things are going to make a little bit more sense. It's going to be easier for your brain to make those connections and have a basic understanding of what's actually going to class. And this is really, really helpful if you don't already have the notes printed out, as well as if you kind of struggle with math and you kind of need a better way for your brain to take those connections. Not the worst, but the last thing you really want to be doing is walking into class, having no idea what's going on, having no idea what your teacher is going to talk about, and having to try to follow them as quickly and fast as possible. Because then again, you just got to remember, like, just think about what your brain's trying to do as you're in class. You're trying to write down as much stuff as possible. You're trying to listen as much as possible, right? Trying to take in all this information. And you're also trying to understand everything like at the same regard. So it's like three major things that's happening. And you can just imagine why some of you really struggle with math. It's not so much that you're incapable of understanding the material. It's not so much really that even that your teacher is so poor, right? Or that you're such a bad math student, but a lot of them comes into how you're preparing for those math lessons. The next one, what did I say with this? Oh, so number 3 and 4 kind of like connect together. And I wrote in my email, like, don't fall into the easy trap. And I think this is one that I fell into all the time. So when I remember being as a student, like I would go into math class and I struggle with math, right? I talked about my struggles, inside of the math class, but one thing I remember it would happen, and I think one of the reasons why I struggled with math is because I'd listen to my teacher, I'd listen to what we were going over, and I'd start to understand. I'd be like, oh, I get it. And then I remember the teacher would be like, so let's go through this example. And you're like, you look at it and you're like, oh, I already know what's going on. Like, I know how to do that example. That's an easy example. He's just wasting my time. I am not going to listen, or I'm going to kind of like zone out at this moment, right? Like I kind of have the general idea what we're doing. And he's going to do, let's say, a linear equation or something, make it like the easiest example. So I'd zone out. And I call this like what I call the easy trap, because you think that, oh, just because they're covering an easy problem, I already know what I'm doing. I'm not going to write this down. So a lot of times I remember I would not write down the easy example. I'd kind of zone out. Cell phones weren't very common back in my day. So dating myself, but like same idea. I'd maybe like draw pictures, and just kind of zone out. And then, but what would happen is I would miss a lot of what the instructor was teaching. And then we get to a more complicated example. And there was connections that I lost because he explained them with the easy example. And then he used that as a bridge for the more complicated examples. But I never got that because I was missing out. Or another more common example is I would understand what's going on. I'm like, okay, I get it. I would not write down the easy example. And then I'd go home and do my homework. And I remember I'd try to do my homework and I didn't have I only had like one hard example like written down. And then I'm trying to like connect or understand like, what was it exactly I was doing? Or why did I do this? Like, what was the purpose? What was the objective? What was I trying to achieve? And it would have been a lot easier if I had this basic example in front of me that I could follow. But no, what did I have? I had some complicated example that was like a certain set of like only would happen once in a while to do. So it impacted the way I understood the process or the concept. So a lot of times as teachers, we want to build from, basics to more advanced, but don't feel that, when we see something easy going on that you're like, oh, this is easy. This is for the dumb kids, right? I already understand what's going on. No, make sure that you are paying attention. Make sure that you're writing it down if you don't already have it available. So therefore you can always go back and rely on that material. The other thing that's kind of important under that is when you're in the class and you're writing down the notes, I can't even tell you how many times, and this is one of the things as a teacher I remember that I would get into where I tell students, I'm like, stop writing, put your pens down, like listen to me, listen to what I am saying, because it's very important for you to internalize the words that are coming out of my mouth. And I think as a student, it's more important to listen to what the teacher is saying than writing down what the teacher is doing. And because a lot of times what the teacher is doing, like when they write down the notes, when they put things on the board or when they put things on the screen, right? That's all great. And that's what I'm saying. You should have that stuff written down or try to get as much done as possible, because what you want to be doing is listening. You want to be understanding what is the commentary that they're adding, right? And a lot of times, teachers, they're going to give those tips, those tricks, those extra like extra connections and the ways that things that make sense, with their mouth. And it's not always necessarily going to be written down. So if you can have that opportunity to make sure you're writing down, but when the teacher's talking or they're explaining what's going on, like try to make sure that you can give yourself that attention to really listen to what they're saying. And because, I always tell my students, I mean, that is the gold of the teaching is what I'm saying, not what's written down, right? And then students would be so set on writing down everything I gave them. And that's why I just started, I'm like, here's the notes. Just listen to what I'm teaching, right? Listen to what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is more importantly than what you're writing down. And that's what I want you guys to, focus on. Because I think that when the stuff that's written down is great, but how the teacher is going to be relating to that concept is really where you're going to, make those understanding. All right. And the last kind of tip that I wanted to give you guys is a kind of like I don't want to use this word, but kind of like a special extra tip that that I don't talk a lot about on. And it's going to take a little bit of extra work that I know a lot of students are not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I don't have to do this, right? I'm good. But I'm telling you, I am happy to read your emails. I'm happy to read your messages, your chats, your comments that saying thank you for giving me this advice. And this advice for this last thing for you guys to do your tips is when you're done with your notes, when you're done with the chapter, when you're done with the homework, write down a summary. Write down what it is you understand. Write down your questions. Write down all those things. Give yourself a snapshot of your understanding of the concepts that has happened when you write down the notes, when you do your homework, and then also when you're reviewing. Because guess what? When you have, for like most math classes, you're going to be taking a chapter test. You're going to be taking a semester exam, a final exam, right? So what's better than going back through the homework and going back and reading some of the things that you wrote down, like when you were learning it, that like, oh, hey, the professor, said to do this. And like, oh, that actually I never had to deal with that yet, but that's a good thing to remember, right? Or like, hey, I don't really understand why this is with this, right? And maybe you just didn't have the understanding at that point in the course. And then maybe like 2 or 3 chapters later, everything like makes sense. And then you look back and you're like, oh, that's why we did that in that chapter. Like now I understand that, right? And again, guess what? It's good. Like you all know in math class, like things come back up, like they build off of each other. So when you go through the notes and you go through one of those class periods, the math class periods where you exit the building or the classroom and you're like, my brain hurts. I'm still kind of like not wondering if I really fully understood what's going on. I've been there. Trust me. I would recommend just try writing down things. What did you not understand? What did you understand? What do you think you need to remember or how to do? Once you go through the homework, what is like making sense? What didn't make sense? Like what was easy? What was hard? Like just add as much stuff as you can to your notes, because as once we get to the end of the year and we want to go back and review our notes and look over things, all that extra context, that commentary that you wrote down as you were in the moment is really going to help your brain remember what you were learning, as well as kind of make those connections to all the stuff that you learned since then. And it's not something that is that I think a lot of students really do. But, as we're kind of going into how to take better notes, it's really kind of filling in those gaps. And I think that's something that's really, really important. So, all right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of those tips. Hopefully you guys have kind of already maybe do some of those things. And if there's maybe anything else that I missed, let me know down below for that, because I'm, obviously a lot of people are in this chat that are looking for getting some better math tips. So I am sure they would appreciate from there. All right, so let's go ahead and get back into our math. Oh, actually, why did I go through this? No, we can go back to the camel link. There you go. My brain hurts. Yeah, hey, I totally get it. Like, that's it, right? I mean, that's it, guys. But yeah, like I can't even tell you how many times I've been in a math class where my brain just absolutely hurt. And the last thing I want to do is be writing down like the notes and all that stuff. But that's the stuff when it's important. Cal says, what other research are you using? I said, private McLogan. She said, she also, well, that's awesome, Kyle. I love it. Alex said, can you do tutoring online or something? Yes. So guys, as you know, I stepped away from the classroom. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm making my videos. But one of the things I want to be adding in is some extra live streams, some extra tutoring opportunities. So all I can say for you guys right now is just stay tuned to the channel, and I'll keep you guys updated of what is going on. Well, it's okay, Addie. No worries. Glad to have you on. Can you pass geometry at any level? Yes, of course you can. Mr. McLogan, just want to say hi. Thank you for such videos. You have a lot throughout high school math because my high school teacher didn't teach. Well, I am so sorry for that. I know it was a tough year. It really was. There was actually even a student of mine that I don't want to throw her under the bus because it was a funny one. She made a TikTok video where she didn't learn anything from me all last year. And I was like, hey, it was tough. I mean, I tried to do the best that I felt I could possibly do from last year. But yeah, last year was tough. It just was. And I know this year is another tough year. Obviously I stepped away, but yeah, I know there's a lot that, students and teachers and administration and schools, they gotta be able to figure out, to develop all that or develop a good instruction. Algebra 2 is the only subject that makes me feel stupid. I pass all my classes with A's. I can't seem to math. It's all right, AJ. Don't worry. The main thing, I've talked about this a lot previously, is you don't need to master math. You don't need to be a master of everything, right? The main thing is like when you have a doctor that's, working on you, right? You're not going to be concerned if the doctor got a B in their English class, right? You want them to be the best at what they're possibly doing. And I'm not saying that you should slack off at math, right? Or you should not try your best, but I don't want you to hold that all as a pedestal. Like, do the absolute best you can do, put in the work. Everything that I talked about tonight, I think could benefit you, and do that, but don't feel that you are not worthy or, are not better than others just because you're not getting all A's and all everything, right? I tell people all the time, like, I got a D in pre-calculus, and then I went and I got a D in pre-calculus in high school, and then I went and got my math degree, right? And now a lot of people think I'm a math genius, which is like the craziest thing in the world, because obviously if you're getting a D in pre-calculus in a senior year of high school, you're not a math genius, right? But I mean, obviously there's a lot of things with, my motivation and everything that was going on, but it's like, yeah, I had to work really hard to get my degree. I had to put in a lot of work to get to there. And but yeah, just kind of realize what you're good at, realize what you're weak at, and get better at everything, but don't overcomplicate grades and everything like that. All right. So we got some math questions. I'll get to you guys. You look like Johnny. No, Johnny Sins looks like me. Come on, guys. We got to get this straight. This is actually an interesting one, Chrissy. I think this is like the geometry versus algebra kind of question, which yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting one, because I think a lot of people feel like it's either algebra or geometry. And I think it really just kind of comes in geometry is a lot of that spatial kind of reasoning, and algebra is a lot of like the a lot of with the like abstract portion of it. So, but I enjoy both from on there. And, I know there's a lot of students that, like one or the other, or one thing they get, one thing they don't. But yeah, no, I definitely think you can be successful in both. But yeah, I can definitely see how your strengths can go one way or the other. Geometry. Well, Edgar, I have a ton of geometry videos. I will be making some more videos, but I would make some more videos, but if you go and take a look at my playlist, I have a ton of them. JR, calling me out. Good job. Yes, I did not talk about anything for distance learning, and I do apologize. Well, I don't really apologize for that, but it wasn't really the point that I was trying to make. I think everything I talked about tonight could be mostly applied to distance learning. Because I mean, obviously if you're doing distance learning, then you are hopefully assuming that your notes will be provided ahead of time, at least in some kind of concept or realm. Maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, I think anything else, but I didn't really talk about anything specifically for, distance learning. And, it's kind of weird too, because, I only went through that last year as well. So as far as like, what is a best practice, or, how to be successful, I don't really have as much, I don't have as much to speak about from that perspective compared to like actually being inside the classroom. So, I don't know if I have any effective notes, no lectures. I hate distance learning, taking effective notes. I think the main thing that I would probably relate or bring up to you is making sure that you're working through math with somebody else. Some like going through it online, getting tutor videos or working with some other students or a group of students or whatever may be the case. I think when you're trying to, there's obviously a subset of students that can learn math on their own perfectly fine. But if you are one that has struggled with math or have had some issues in the past, I would highly, highly, highly recommend not trying to do distance learning all by yourself. Find somebody that you can do the math that's in your class or that's in the same grade, whatever, that you can do the math with. So that would be my best tip for that. Hey, Ashlyn, would you say pre-calculus art? I actually have a video. I was going to do it this week. I think I might push it off one more week though. Cause I think I'm going to wait maybe one more week for that. From on there. So but yes, I have a video on pre-calc. That is a totally random question that I'm like, it all depends on where you are, where you're at and everything like that. But I do have a video coming out from on there. So all I can recommend to you to give you some quick of an answer before I release that video is based on your algebra 2. If you feel comfortable with the algebra, if you feel like you have a strong background, then I think algebra or pre-calculus will be a good course you prepare for. If you're like, holy crap, I never learned anything in algebra 2, I don't even know what I'm doing, then you'll have definitely some work ahead of you, which is not bad, right? You can do it. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you're going to have to. Pre-calculus brings back up a lot of the stuff that you were supposed to know and expects you to remember a lot of stuff. So that is where some of those issues can be had. Do you study STEM in university? No, I don't think you do. I think you need to know what you're able to do and put in the work. It's okay. I learned this. Yeah, I think I'm actually kind of, I'm actually kind of surprised that we removed a lot of like online teaching components in our schools. Like obviously in-person learning is like so very, very important and I think very helpful for students. But I think there's such more of an advantage that an opportunity with allowing students to be able to continue like their education online. And especially with the COVID and the Delta variant, all that kind of stuff, like that just even adds more reason from there. You've been very helpful. Well, you're very happy to be able to help you out, Anthony and Evan, as to you as well. Yes. And also, yeah, if your teacher lets you have notes online, that's awesome. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I used to tell my students, like, take really, really good notes. I might allow them on the exam. Like, you never know, right? And, and yeah, so it's, I'm like, yeah, I'd let my students, eventually take notes too on their exam. I just started calculus and realized you have 200 videos for derivatives alone. Yes. No, don't worry. I mean, that's calculus in a nutshell. Calculus is one concept. Here is a ton of different, videos from there. And I'm looking to adding more to 200, calculus to derivative videos. Why is that one not showing up? I saw it on there. There we go. Well, thank you, Ethan. I hope things are doing well. I started university. Well, awesome. Congratulations. And it's good to have you on. It's been a while, for sure. I do remember you back in the day. So thank you so much for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Last year's Algebra 200 really pushed me to the edge. Yeah, we definitely got some definitely got some more videos, guys. I am looking excited and happy to be able to be producing for you guys. All right. This is a good one. So I just failed my Algebra 2 quiz, and now I have a test tomorrow. Any advice? Well, you're going to have to figure out what you got wrong. So I'm a little concerned why you don't have enough time to reflect on what you got wrong and fix it. And I apologize for that. Just because, I don't think that's ideal for your learning to do that. But maybe you did have some time and, just didn't connect or whatever. But I would definitely just make sure you understand what you got wrong and why you got them wrong. And so therefore, because typically, obviously, when you go from a quiz to a test, a lot of things are going to repeat, right? So you don't want to make the same mistakes. So really try to understand what you got wrong, why you got it wrong. So therefore, you can correct those as you go into the test. The other thing is, don't feel bad because you failed the test. It's okay. Or failed the quiz. It's okay. Do the best you can possibly do on your test and then move on from there. Continue, make sure whatever you get wrong, make sure you understand why you got it wrong so that you can do better. But learning is a process. It's not you get this grade and that's what you deserve and that's what you get and you can't, that is how you are defined. You have to remove that thinking. And so many students feel like, oh, I got a C, or, oh, I failed. I can't do any better, or that's as good as I'm going to get. And no, it's a process. You can continually be better. And even if your grade cannot reflect everything you understand, you have to keep on working at learning the material. You have to keep on working at fixing your mistakes and your misunderstandings through everything. So don't let a grade define you. Don't let a grade define your understanding. Carter, what is the best way to study for a math test? That is another question I would say, but do a lot of practice problems is probably the best and easiest. And then review the notes, which I covered, in tonight. So actually, Carter, you post that, so I'll go over you. But yeah, I would definitely do many practice problems. I would definitely, review your notes that you went over from the night, from your class. Alexa said, thank you much for your videos. Helped me a ton last year during Virtual Academy. The way you explain math. Well, I'm very happy to be able to help you out. Alexa has percent of the class grade on tests. Yeah, Brian. Hey, I was probably 80% on mine on test for my students. So, yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but I always gave my students opportunities to fix their grades. They always had opportunities to fix their answers on their tests. They always had opportunities to fix their grades on their quizzes. But yeah, it was a lot of work, so they had to go through that. What concepts should you master for Calc BC? Just like any calc. I would go through the trig and the algebra 2. If you're really strong on your trig and algebra 2, you've done everything you need to do for calculus. The rest of it's going to rely on your teacher and you putting in the work during the year for calculus, but if you've done the pre-calculus and algebra 2 and you have a solid understanding, then you are right where you need to be. It just says, I started college and taking calculus. I'm pretty rusty on my pre-calculus skills. What do you recommend to be good academic standing? I don't know what you mean. What do you recommend to be good academic? I would just continue. Here's the funny thing. Here's a little tip. Guys, just because you're in one class doesn't mean you cannot be reviewing in other classes, right? So, for instance, you're in calculus, and maybe you're a little weak in the pre-calculus skills. Okay, cool. So you're learning through the concepts, right? As you're going through calculus. Fine. Maybe once a week, or maybe 10, 15 minutes every weeknight, go back through your pre-calculus concepts, go back through the examples, go back through your textbook, review that content, keep that stuff fresh in your brain. It's going to come up, right? So just because you passed it, just because, this happens all the time. So it's oh, well, I got an A, in algebra 2 or in pre-calculus. I'm yeah, but you don't remember anything. You forgot everything. You lost your skills. You got to keep that stuff fresh. It is expected that you are understanding this material, or that you can repeat these processes. So if that's something that you're weak on, you're like, I got through on virtual, like I'm not really great at this, then okay, like take the time and go back and review the stuff, and stay fresh on it. Well, thank you, Christy, for another super chat. Strive for perfection, strive for progress, not perfect. Yeah, guys, that I think that's one of the things that's killing a lot of students, not literally. But yeah, students are just, they want to get the best marks on everything. And a lot of things are becoming of the, bad byproduct, from that. So, hopefully, crap, I forgot to do, I don't know. Let me know, guys, if I forgot to put in my landline. So hopefully the website is, or my internet's not too bad. And where I think key tips were limits. Yes, I do have some limits. I have a video that just went out, and I have some more stuff coming in as well. Kingdom, I will get to some of the questions, guys. If you do have questions, I have some math questions I already submitted, and then we'll kind of see where we're at after that. But yeah, if you guys have some questions, feel free to add them in or go into Discord. But we'll get to there. What should I learn before Algebra 2? Algebra 1. I would say the best. There you go, Bennett. As basic as I can possibly get for you. I have geometry tomorrow, and the test's 80% of my grade, and I really don't want to fail. Do you have any advice? Yeah, go back through as much stuff. Obviously, if you have it tomorrow, you're going to have to cram a heck of a lot. Do as many examples as you possibly can. Make sure you understand things. Go back through. Here's the thing, guys. Go through your notes. Go through your quizzes. Go through everything your teacher has covered, right? Because guarantee, yes, your teacher can always throw in some some odd, some random problems or things that are going to confuse you, whatever else. But I guarantee the majority of the content that's going to be in your test is stuff that's already been presented to you. So go back and review. Look at all the homework problems. Look at all the notes. Look through all the quizzes. Everything that's been provided by your teacher, and study for that stuff. That I would recommend, is going to help you. There we go. Awesome. Do you like algebra? I'm not sure on that. A lot of questions from there. Oh, all right. Let me see. No. Oh, that's going to be covered up. Okay, cool. Never mind. No, I do not still teach. Well, at least in the classroom setting. I am... dang it. Come on. Nope. Okay. Here, actually. Hold on. Let me see. Sorry, there you go. Okay. Yes, is it good I take TPRA if you are not good? Yeah, why not? You're going to have to put in the work, right? You know that, right? If you feel like you're already kind of behind, but put in the work. And if you want to take pre-calculus, then I think you can, pre-calculus is not above anybody. Obviously there's some foundational skills you need to have, and there's probably some extra work you're going to have to do, but it's not, something that I think is like an alien course that only a small subset of people can understand. No, you can do it. But if you struggled with math, or you had a bad year last year and you're missing some content and some instruction, then yeah, there's going to be some work ahead of yourself. Man, these guys bring in a lot of questions. All right. Can you let me know what algebra concept I need to relearn for geometry? I would definitely go back into, the factoring, solving linear equations, ratios, solving equations. I think is just the main important I can come off the top of my head. What topic do your students struggle with the most with pre-calc? I would definitely say identities, verifying identities, simplifying identities, solving with identities, sum and difference, double angle, half angle. That was that was usually pretty difficult for the students. And you guys are bringing a lot of questions. Yeah, I think a lot of students struggle more with geometry just because of the more of the, proofs, the definitions, the theorems, the postulates, all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of hard to remember, just because it doesn't relate to a lot of the stuff that they previously did. All right. All right, guys, I need to get into some of these questions because they were submitted by students. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll see how many questions, guys. I don't know how much time I'm really going to have for you guys, so I apologize for that. But again, if you guys do have questions or I don't get to your questions, feel free to add them into the chat. I'm going to be working on some math problems. But you guys can also go ahead and submit your questions into the chat, which I do believe I do have it pinned, which I do. Or you can go ahead and hop on the Discord server and get some questions from there. All right, so let's go into the math questions and I'll share my screen. Here we go. So in the next one, so in the first one, it says perform the operation and simplify. So we have a multiply rational expressions. Now, when doing a problem like this, these do not look very fun to simplify, right? So what I would recommend doing is I'd recommend simplifying this right-hand side because typically what we're going to be looking for is we're going to, like if we're going to be simplifying something out, we're going to be looking for the same factors to divide in the numerator and denominator. So follow me here. I don't know what these factored out to, but on the right-hand side, I can factor out an R. So if I factor out an R, I'd be left with a 5 minus 4R. Interesting, right? Oh, I'm sorry. What am I doing? No. I would be left with a 5R minus 4. Okay. What I would recommend that to be, I would think about that being a factor in my denominator here. 5 minus 4R, because then those would divide out. Now, again, it doesn't mean they're going to divide out, but let's say they were going to divide out. Then what would my other factor need to be if I was going to get a 5R squared and a negative 16? Well, then it would have to be a R plus 4. And let's see if that works. That'd give me, what, a 20R, and then this would give me a negative 4R, so that'd divide out perfectly. Okay. Then over here, I'm probably going to want to rearrange this. So this would be 4 minus 9R squared. That's the same thing as a negative 9R squared plus 4. Now you can factor out the negative. Factor out the negative. Factor out the negative to give you a 9R squared minus 4. Now you can see that's a difference of 2 squares. 3R minus 2, and then 3R plus 2. There you go. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that in. So that's a 3R minus 2, negatives on the outside, and that's a 3R plus 2. Okay, so then over here, again, what I'm looking for is I'm saying, all right, and I don't know which one is which, right? I don't know which one I'm going to include, but I realize that if my last term is positive and my middle term is positive, then I'm going to need 2 positive terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, well, how about 3R plus 2 has to exist, right? Because I don't want the negative, because that'd be a negative term. So that one's going to exist. And then what would I need to do to get 15? Well, that'd be a 5. And then to get a 8, I'd do 4. So that'd be 5R plus 4. All right, let's see if this works. 3R times 5R is 15R squared. 2 times 4 is 8, right? Now let's do the middle term. So 3R times 5R is 15. And, no, I'm sorry. 3R times 4 is a 12. And then, that's not working, is it? Dang. All right, well, I guess I could factor it. I just really don't want to factor it. Did I do anything wrong? That's a 3R plus 2. That'd be a 5R squared, and that'd be an 8. That's a 15R squared. If you guys have any things, or let me know. I didn't work this problem out before, so I'm trying to see if I did everything correctly. So that'd be a 10. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, that is work. So that'd be 12, and then that's a 10, so it's 22. Awesome. Okay, so now all I did was I just simplified the example. But then, now you guys can see, like, we're multiplying, so basically everything can be divided from the numerator and the denominator. So we have those divide out, these divide out, and then I'm just going to be left with a R times a 5R plus 4, all divided by a, let's see, a negative CR plus 4 times a 3R minus 2. I don't know why I did that. And there you go. All right, next example, sorry, I got a little fuzzy, is 2 log base 4 of x minus log base 4 of x minus 1 equals 1. So the first thing I recognize here is I'm going to want to condense this down to one single logarithm. So whenever you're solving a logarithmic equation and you have more than one logarithm, look to use those properties of logarithms to kind of condense it. So the first thing I can do is I can say log base 4 of x squared minus log base 4 of x minus 1 equals 1. Okay. Now I can go ahead and rewrite this as one single logarithm, log base 4 of x squared over x minus 1 equals 1. Okay. So now I can use my properties of logarithms, again, to write this as an exponential equation of 4 raised to the first power equals a x squared over a x minus 1. Well, obviously 4 to the first power is just going to be 4. So therefore I can multiply a x minus 1 on both sides. That will give me a 4x minus 4 equals a x squared, which is a quadratic. So let's get this all to the same side. Oops, I'm sorry about that, guys. I forgot I was... nope. Forgot I was working over here. I was like explaining everything and kind of forgot I was teaching on that side. Okay. So we have now that becomes a x squared minus 4x plus 4. And now to go ahead and solve that, you're going to want to use the quadratic formula, right? And as long as I did everything correctly. Yep. Okay. So let's go and solve. So now we're going to use the quadratic formula. So I'll have x equals opposite of b, which is 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so it's a negative 4, minus a 4 times a times c. That's going to be 0. That's not, why is that not factorable? X minus 2 times, oh, why am I using quadratic formula? I got that. So then this can be factored down into a x minus 2 times a x minus 2. Yeah, easy me, come on. So therefore my final answer is x equals 2. There you go. And then let's just double make sure that works. And yes, it does. Okay, so that is true. There you go. Question number 3 says, our university offers tutorials at the Math Center. Any advice should I use for them? Use them every day. When I was a math student, guys, and I had the tutor lab, I went to them every day. I did my homework there because if I didn't understand how to do a homework question, I immediately had tutors that I could ask and like, hey, can you help me out with this? Like, I don't understand this, or can you just explain this to make sure I understand what I'm doing? Use it. It's free. It's available for you. Like, take advantage of that. And guess what? I was in that tutor lab so often that I really enjoyed the process of teaching and like learning and being a tutor that I became a tutor. Like, I eventually started tutoring in the same lab I used to go to every single day. Number 4, I need tips on geometry. I'll be taking that and need tips. Write down every single definition and theorem and prop and postulate and all those formulas. Write them all down and keep them in a big binder that you just constantly or keep on reviewing to remember. Because a lot of times students struggle with geometry because they don't make those connections, and it's so hard to remember everything they need to remember for the course. So I'd highly recommend is writing all it down. Right? Yeah. Okay. All right, question number 5. How should I keep track of math assignments, organize and take good notes, and do well on tests and quizzes? Well, I would say everything you do for the notes that I talked about tonight. And then, and yeah, as far as in tests and quizzes, like also in addition to your notes, like go over your homework assignments, like redo your questions, redo your quizzes, like for your tests, for your exams, redo your tests, like go back through all the stuff that you did wrong. Make sure you understand things. I think so many students miss out on opportunities where they get something wrong and they're just like, I didn't understand it, like whatever. Like, no, go back over that stuff. Like constantly be going back over the stuff that you don't understand or that you got wrong. Right? And redo it and make sure you understand it. And then as you start walking in, like as you start going into quizzes, you're going into tests, going into exams, you're correcting all those mistakes, and your brain and yourself is going to remember. You're not going to have the stress of like, oh crap, I got to remember this. Like, no, because you've already worked through it. Question number 6, how would you recommend to get better at trig? Websites, channels? Well, of course, Mr. McLogan on YouTube. But in reality, I think you just really need to like practice. You know, I mean, obviously you got to understand trig, the concepts. If you don't understand sine, cosine, tangent, and what's going on, like I don't have any direct websites. I think everybody's a little bit different on how they're going to connect to concepts and to instruction. So find whatever you need, you know, find whatever you kind of feel like you have that right connection with that makes the most amount of sense. But from there, then it just kind of comes into like put in the work, put in the practice, you know, like trig is not above, anyway. I think you're definitely capable of learning the material. There's some things that you're not understanding, that you're not connecting with, that you got to get the right instruction. You got to get the right person that explains it. You're like, oh, now everything's making sense. But then once everything does, then you got to practice it, right? Just like, oh, now it's easy. Now I can do it. No, like go back in and make sure you put in the work. All right. Question number 7 says how to find the arithmetic mean. So in that case, all we're simply going to do is add 2 over 5 plus 3 over 4, all divided by 2. Okay. So a couple ways we can go ahead and do this. I think when you're adding fractions, you want to find common denominators. So I'd probably do that first. I'll divide by the 2 at the end. So to find a common denominator here, I'll multiply by 4 over 4 and a 5 over 5. Okay, so that's going to give me a 8/20 plus a 15/20 all over 2. I'm sorry about that, guys. Why do I keep on doing that? There you go. Okay. So now I can add these together, which is going to give me a 23 over 20 divided by 2. Now again, dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So I'll multiply by 1/2 on top and bottom, and that gives me a 23 over 40. And that cannot be simplified any further. So there you go. So just amend, make sure you're getting common denominators, combine the numerators, so that grouping form there, and then divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2 at the end. All right, and question number 8, ladies and gentlemen, is just a simple logarithm, log base x of 6 equals 1/2. So we're going to solve. So I can use my rules of logarithms here to rewrite this as an exponential equation, which is x to the 1/2 power is equal to 6. And I think this is where the student was having trouble. Remember, guys, that x to the 1/2 is the same thing as x, the square root of x, equals 6. So if I want to get rid of the square root, what do? Well, you would square it, right? And you square both sides. Well, that's the same thing I want to do here, guys. If I want to get rid of this, I'm going to raise it to the second power, because what is that going to do? That's going to, when I multiply, like 1/2 raised to the second power, you're multiplying 2 times 1, that just gives you x to the first power, which is equal to 36, right? And again, you can see here, that's the same thing. X equals 36. All right. Evan, jeez. Evan. Come on now. Thank you, Charles. From there, not calculus. No, I didn't get any calculus questions at least on this stream tonight. But thanks so much, guys, for joining in tonight. Again, if you do have questions, go ahead and submit them into the link in the chat. As well as if you would like to go ahead and join the Discord server, I would highly recommend going there to answer some questions, getting some help with your math and everything else. I look forward to making some more videos for this week. I hope that all of you are starting school this week. They'll wish you the absolute best of luck. I know it's another year and not starting the way we would like to. But we will get through everything. And for those of you that already started, keep on working hard. I know it's a little kind of back to normal, but we're going to do this, guys. And I'm here for you, and I'm happy to be able to help you out any way I can. But wish you guys, I hope you have a great week, and I will see you again next week for our live stream. All right, guys. Cheers.